Welcome to the Agentic AI podcast. Today we're cutting through the noise, bypassing the hype, and really diving into something concrete, a game-changing number, $100 million. Yeah, there's a recent report out saying Salesforce is saving roughly that much, $100 million annually, and they're doing it just by using AI in their customer service. Now, for me, this isn't just another big financial headline. It feels like the clearest signal we've had so far that agentic AI, it's not some future novelty. It's here, right now, actively and measurably changing how major businesses run and scale.
It really is the proof point, isn't it? The one the industry's kind of been waiting for. So for you listening, our mission today is pretty clear. Let's analyze this huge achievement. Let's try and pull out a practical blueprint from it. What does a win this big actually prove about getting AI right at scale? And maybe more importantly, how can your enterprise finally move past that pilot stage and start seeing this kind of impact?
Okay, but I do want to push back on that number just a little bit right at the start. When I hear $100 million in savings, my first thought is, okay, what about the hidden costs? You know, the maintenance, the specialized people you need to keep these agentic systems humming, the upfront investment. Is this figure really as solid as it sounds, or is it maybe just, really good marketing?
That's a fair challenge. And honestly, it reflects the healthy skepticism we should have in this space.
Hmm.
Look, we have to acknowledge the $100 million number is likely just one part of the picture. We don't have the full details on, say, margins or the total cost of ownership over time.
Yeah.
But the significance is really in the scale. That number, $100 million, it definitively proves agentic AI can deliver measurable enterprise-level impact. It shifts AI from being maybe an experimental cost center.
Right, the shiny pilot phase.
Exactly, to being a real strategic driver of efficiency. It cements AI as a core part of this whole digital labor transformation we're seeing.
So it's moved beyond just a small, isolated efficiency gain. This is strategic. This is impacting the bottom line in a big way.
Precisely. And think about the credibility boost for Salesforce. They're achieving these results using their own platform, Agentforce, internally. They're genuinely walking the talk. That internal success story, it's incredibly powerful validation when they go talk to customers. It builds a massive amount of trust. It's like saying, look, we did this ourselves.
Yeah, we figured it out, and so can you. And that kind of demonstrated success must immediately raise the bar for everyone else, right? For competitors, for other vendors.
Oh, absolutely. The ripple effect is undeniable, and it's happening now. Enterprises, they're not really interested in flashy demos anymore. They're demanding proof.
Yeah.
They want vendors to show reliable, scalable results. They want concrete outcomes that, frankly, start to look like this level of financial efficiency. The whole market expectation, it's shifted.
Okay, so let's do that. Let's translate this success into something actionable. If we piece together what's in public reports, what we know about industry patterns, what are the likely strategic steps? What's the enterprise playbook behind these kinds of massive savings? We sort of boiled it down to a 6-point strategy that hopefully you can learn from.
Yes, and it's really the execution details, the how, that separates the winners from, well, the company's stuck in pilot purgatory forever. The technical setup has to be really thought through, very strategic. So, point 1, start small, scale smart. They almost certainly didn't just jump in and try to automate the most complex, emotionally charged customer issues on day one.
That sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Right. You begin with the high volume, low risk stuff. Think simple password resets, maybe checking an order status, basic info lookups, things like that. This does a few things. It builds confidence internally. It generates clean data for training and lets you refine the system before you ramp up to handling more complex cases.
Which naturally leads to the second point, I think, which is making sure you don't completely wreck the customer experience just because you want to automate everything.
Exactly right. That's hybrid AI-human workflows. The AI handles the bulk, maybe the routine 80%, delivering most of the savings. But, and this is critical, you must have reliable, well-designed handoff for the edge cases. If the AI agent hits something it's not sure about, if his confidence score dips below a certain threshold, it needs to seamlessly escalate to a human agent. That protects reliability, protects customer satisfaction. Those are the quiet foundations supporting that $100 million figure.
Okay. And these systems aren't static, are they? You can't just set it and forget it.
Absolutely not. Point 3, feedback fuels improvement. An agentic system is a living thing. Every single interaction, whether it was successful or not, it has to be logged, it needs to be scored, and that data needs to feed right back into the system to refine the AI models. This constant loop, this proactive logging and scoring, is really the only way to fight against what we call model drift. It ensures accuracy actually improves over time instead of slowly degrading.
I think one of the biggest reasons we hear about AI projects stalling or failing is that they end up being isolated. They can't actually do anything useful beyond, say, generating some text. Which brings us to maybe the core technical piece, deep system integration,
Oh, 100%. If you want to avoid errors, or worse, that dreaded hallucination effect where the AI just makes things up
which destroys trust instantly.
instantly. The agent has to connect seamlessly into your core operational systems. We're talking real-time API calls to the CRM, to the knowledge base, maybe inventory systems, billing, whatever context the agent needs to pull real-time information and execute actions accurately. Without that deep integration, you basically just have a very, very expensive chatbot that can't actually solve problems.
Okay, that covers the tech side. But achieving this kind of scale, rolling out potentially thousands of automated agents, that requires some serious internal structure too, right? Let's talk governance.
Yeah.
How do you manage the risk when you inject this level of automation into something as critical as customer service?
Yes, and that brings us to the crucial non-technical factors. Number 5, governance is non-negotiable. You absolutely cannot just trust the underlying LLM vendor to handle safety and compliance for you. It's your responsibility. You need mandatory confidence thresholds baked into every workflow, strict safety filters for sensitive data or topics, robust observability dashboards so you can actually see what the agents are doing. These aren't optional extras. They're fundamental for transparency, for auditability, and frankly, for keeping regulators and customers happy.
And finally, let's circle back to the savings number itself. Salesforce did mention reducing about 4,000 support roles. But we should probably stress that the $100 million benefit isn't just about cutting headcount, is it?
That's the 6th point, and it's crucial. Savings go beyond headcount. Yes, optimizing labor costs is obviously a huge factor, but the efficiency gains multiply across the entire operation in other ways, too. Think about faster resolution times for customers, fewer human errors in processing tasks, which avoids costly downstream fixes, and just generally highly optimized resource allocation across your whole support infrastructure.
Right. When an AI agent resolves an issue in, say, 2 minutes instead of the 20 it might take a human, and you multiply that by millions of interactions, that scale creates enormous financial leverage.
Okay, so we've looked at the big number. We've unpacked a likely playbook. The final step then is distilling this down. What's the immediate mandate for leaders listening to this? If your enterprise is maybe still on the fence about agentic AI, what are the key imperatives the Salesforce success really underscores?
I think the milestones send some very clear signals. 4 key takeaways jump out. First, the time to act is now. Honestly, delaying large-scale AI adoption at this point isn't just missing a trend. It's actively risking falling way behind competitors who are already scaling up their digital workforces and locking in those efficiency gains. It's becoming a competitive necessity. Second, delivery trumps hype. We touched on this with integration, but it bears repeating. Success hinges entirely on the orchestration, the monitoring, the governance, basically, the seamless infrastructure that makes the agent reliable and effective day to day. It's not really about which specific large language model you picked last quarter. It's about the framework you build around it to ensure it actually works reliably today.
And that framework, that infrastructure, it demands a completely different skill set from the people involved, doesn't it? If AI agents are handling thousands, maybe millions of tasks, your human workforce can't just stay the same.
That's imperative number 3. Talent must evolve. The workforce of the near future needs brand new, specialized roles. We're going to need agent orchestrators, people who design, manage, and optimize these complex AI workflows. And maybe even more critically, we need AI auditors. These are people who blend deep business understanding with digital expertise, focusing specifically on performance, risk mitigation, and ongoing compliance. That's a huge emerging need.
Auditors, okay.
And a final one, number 4, trust is critical. Transparency, auditability, strict compliance. These aren't just nice-to-haves anymore. They are non-negotiable foundations. This is being driven partly by regulators, yes, but also, very importantly, by your own customers, who increasingly demand to know how their data is being used and protected.
That focus on trust, on adaptability, it really explains why we're seeing modern AI platforms emphasizing certain architectural features, doesn't it?
Yeah.
They're building these modular reasoning agents that can actually break down complex tasks, figure out the steps, and call multiple different external APIs to get the job done. They're also putting a huge emphasis on built-in observability, logging every single action, automatically scoring interactions, detecting that model drift you mentioned earlier before it becomes a problem. And maybe one of the most critical features for enterprise flexibility is making these platforms model agnostic.
Ah, yes, the model agnostic piece. That is absolutely key for long-term enterprise strategy. Being able to swap underlying LLMs, whether you're using, say, Nematron 70B today, maybe Llama 3.1 tomorrow, or perhaps Claude next month, without having to rip out and rewrite your entire workflow. That is the definition of flexible, future-proof, scalable enterprise AI infrastructure. It protects your investment no matter which model happens to be leading the performance race at any given moment.
Right, it de-risks the core technology choice.
Exactly. And underpinning all of this, especially for large organizations handling sensitive customer or financial data, you absolutely need a privacy-first approach. To maintain maximum control and ensure compliance, these systems often need to be run either fully on-premises or within a dedicated private cloud environment. Data sovereignty is paramount.
Okay, that really ties it all together. Salesforce throwing down this $100 million marker. It confirms that agentic AI isn't just tweaking customer service. It's fundamentally reshaping how we even think about enterprise work, efficiency, and scale. It feels like the core challenge now isn't really if the capability exists clearly, it does. The challenge is execution. It's about building reliable, scalable, and crucially trustworthy digital workforces within your own organization.
And that leads us right to the final, maybe provocative thought for you, the listener, to really grapple with. Given this absolute imperative for rapid talent evolution, especially that urgent need for specialized AI auditors who are tasked with ensuring ongoing compliance against tough standards like ISO 27001 or SOC certifications, what specific concrete training programs and internal oversight mechanisms does your enterprise need to implement, like right now, to manage the very real and increased risk of model drift, especially when you're using these powerful model-agnostic platforms and potentially swapping out the underlying LLMs fairly regularly? That agility is a huge advantage, but it introduces a significant complex compliance challenge. Getting ahead of that is the crucial next step in the playbook.
A really practical and timely challenge to take back to your teams. Focus on that execution, invest in developing those new talent roles, and make sure your entire AI foundation is built squarely on trust and compliance from day one. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive on the Agentic AI podcast.